Hello, Kat.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Sham.
Hello.
Hello, Brother Shankar.
Hello there. So nice to hear Swayam's voice. And I see Haima.
Tu pun Hemant nagar.
Hello, Shashi.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste, namaste.
Yeah. I'm going to mute it now.
Okay. Hello, Haima.
Ye 757. Allah.
Hello there, Brahmadas.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Hello, Brahmadas.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So how's it going working from home, Brahmadas?
Oh, actually, I'm keeping busy. It's
I'm sure
definitely,
you are.
yeah, in fact, I'm getting into some pretty exciting technology right now called SOA, Service Order Architecture. So actually, this is like my career is going great.
Great. I think I saw Cindy there for a minute.
Hari Om, Brother Shankara.
Oh, hello there. How are you? Good to see
I'm
you.
good.
Naveen.
Hello.
How are things going in our self-imposed isolation?
So that's so good. Time for inner searching.
Yes, I'm about to post something on Facebook about this being an extraordinary opportunity for us. Sri Ramakrishna said he'd done the full 16 annas. We had to do but one, or 1/16.
Right.
So this is an extraordinary opportunity for us to get in an hour and a half a day of spiritual practice.
That's right.
Hari Om Shankaraji.
Ah, Balakrishna! So good to see your name on the screen. Hello there, dear.
Video nahi on ke liye. Hello, Bala.
Hi, how are you?
I don't see you, but
Yeah, this computer doesn't have the camera,
okay.
but I could see all of you.
Okay. That's all you can do now.
Yeah,
Well, we'll wait till just a few minutes after 8. It's now 8 o'clock exactly according to the computer. So we'll wait just a couple of minutes. We'll wait just a couple of minutes after to see who else joins us.
This is nice, Brother Shankar. I don't have to worry when I move to Denver. I can always see you guys.
You can definitely jump right in. Just stay connected with the newsletter. Just keep getting the newsletter and you'll know all about it.
I can meet you like this, you know, whenever possible. I can always come on there.
Exactly.
Zoom.
Exactly. If you all hear me coughing, it has nothing to do with my recent illness, and it also has nothing whatsoever to do with the coronavirus. It has to do with the fact that the pollens are very high, and they always get to my throat.
I'm
So
allergic
just-
to pollen as well. What I find helps is after I'm done working outside to take a shower immediately when I come inside. Otherwise,
Well,
I
that's
start
always, it's
coughing.
always good for the respiratory system to take a shower. That's a fact.
I have to take a tablet for that, because I suffer too much. My eyes irritate.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. The pollen irritates your eyes. It makes you cough and sneeze, and everybody thinks you got
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, nothing of that. Our quarantine here is succeeding. The four of us who live here are all being very careful. So we'll begin. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. This will be in the newsletter this week, but you all get a little heads up on it ahead of time. I asked Swami Yogeshananda to give us our Easter Sunday discourse. Unfortunately, he said he could not. When he tries to talk at that length, his mouth becomes dry, he says, and he said also in his humorous way, he thinks his brain becomes dry as well. So, but he was very grateful to have been asked, and he sends loving greetings to all of us here in that are connected through the Atlanta Center. He continues to be very strongly connected to this place and feels very has a you could say a passion for this place and the people connected with it. So that's the little bulletin on Swami Yogeshananda, but he replied promptly. He was very together in his thinking and in his response. So his mind remains sharp. It's just that his faculties are diminishing. As we all know, we're studying the life of Sri Sarada Devi, and we're just at the point where Sri Ramakrishna, her life, of course, was so intimately connected with Sri Ramakrishna's, both when he was alive and even after his departure from the body. And so we're reading about the move of Sri Ramakrishna to Shampukur. His cancer had become advanced enough to where the devotees felt he needed constant medical attention. And so they moved him to Shampukur. So I'm going to start back a few sentences from where we left off last week. And so we'll start with this. Ramakrishna performed his divine play in 3 acts. The first, 1836 to 1852, covered his early life in Kamarpukur. The second, 1852 to 1885, comprises his adult life in Kolkata and nearby Dakshineshwar. It was in Dakshineshwar that he practiced various sadhanas, attained illumination, and began to promulgate his divine mission. The third act, 1885 to 1886, encompasses the last months of his life at Shampukur in Kolkata and nearby Koshipur, where he brought his divine drama to its close and laid the foundation for the future Ramakrishna order. It was probably in the second week of October 1885 that Holy Mother arrived at the house in Shampukur to care for her ailing husband. She was beside her husband during the bad times as well as the good. Although she lived behind an impregnable veil of modesty, and this is something that continued, of course, after the Master's departure. It was only in Jairambati. If you went to Jairambati, you could see her without her veil. But in Kolkata, she remained behind her veil, except for when she was alone with her female companions. So she lived behind an impregnable veil of modesty. She had learned from the Master how to adapt to time, place, and person. Now she applied those teachings. Holy Mother took responsibility for preparing the Master's meals while she silently prayed for his recovery. And this is how she spent her time when she was not actively working on his behalf. She did various practices praying for his recovery. On 10 November 1885, the Master had another hemorrhage and his condition became critical. I'll read that again. On 10 November 1885, the Master had another hemorrhage and his condition became critical. Holy Mother suggested through Sharat, later Swami Chetanananda, that someone should pour cold water on the Master's head and put a wet towel on his abdomen. During her stay in Shampukur, Holy Mother went out only once. One evening after cooking for the Master, she walked a mile with Yogin Ma and Golap Ma to see Balaram Basu's, or Balaram Bose as he's sometimes called, Balaram Basu's wife who was ill. Balaram's family was very devoted to the Master and Holy Mother. There's a picture in the book of the house in Shampukur, Calcutta, where Ramakrishna lived for 3 months during his cancer treatment. Swami Charadananda presents a vivid picture of the Shampukur house where the Master stayed for nearly 3 months. The Master lived upstairs in a spacious room called the parlor. To the north and south of the parlor are 2 verandas, the northern one larger than the southern. To the west of the parlor are 2 small rooms, one used by devotees who stayed overnight, and the other by Holy Mother for sleeping. The visitor's room has a narrow veranda to the west. A staircase to the roof is at the eastern end of the corridor leading to the master's room. At the top of those stairs, near the door to the roof, is a covered terrace about 6 feet by 6 feet in size. Holy Mother spent her days on that terrace, and there she cooked the special diet needed by the master. It is really amazing how for 3 months she performed her duties, forgetting all personal inconveniences, while living in that single family house, surrounded by men whom she did not know. This is an interesting thing. Even while living in the Nahabat at Dakshineshwar, many people came to see Sri Ramakrishna. Most of them men, not all of them by any means, but most of them. Holy Mother knew none of them. She knew the master's close disciples, Narendra a little, and of course Rakal. But she really, because of her modesty, she did not know these people who surrounded the master. As there was only one bathroom for all, she would get up before 3 a.m., perform her bathroom activities, and then silently go to the terrace on the second floor without anyone knowing. She would spend the whole day there. When the master's meals were ready at regular times, she would send word downstairs through Swami Advaitananda or Swami Adbhutananda. Of course, they were not yet Swamis, but these were they were the boys that would become these Swamis. At those times, the people were asked to leave so she could bring the food, and the visitors, whoever the visitors were with her at that time, visitors with the master at that time. At those times, those visitors were asked to leave so she could bring the food and feed the master, or while the young disciples would carry his meals to him, if that was more convenient. At noon, Holy Mother would eat and rest on the terrace. At 11 p.m., when everyone else was asleep, she would leave that room and sleep in her bedroom on the first floor until 2 a.m. So from 11 p.m. to 2 p.m., 3 hours of sleep. Fortified by the expectations of the master's recovery, she spent day after day in that way. She lived there so silently and invisibly that many of the regular visitors did not know that she was living there at all and carrying the responsibility for the most important service to the master. Sri Ramakrishna remarked that Mother always did her business from behind a curtain. He was speaking of her in her cosmic sense as well as her personal sense. She was not known, and she made herself unavailable to people. She made herself unknown. Regular visitors did not know that she was living there and carrying the responsibility for the most important service to the master, feeding him in the way that she did. And here comes the blow, so to speak, to the devotees. Dr. Sarkar diagnosed the master's condition. Dr. Sarkar was a very highly regarded homeopath in Kolkata at that time. Dr. Sarkar diagnosed the master's condition as terminal cancer and continued to treat him with homeopathic medicine. The devotees consulted other doctors, but Ramakrishna's illness became worse. At last, Dr. Sarkar suggested moving him to a suburb where he could escape the pollution of the congested city. At that time, if you recall, Kolkata was the capital of India. And it was a very busy and congested place. So the air already then in 1886 was heavy and polluted. And so Dr. Sarkar suggested moving Sri Ramakrishna to a suburb where he could escape the pollution of the congested city. The devotees quickly found a spacious garden house in Kashipur and arranged to move the master there. Now, those of you who visit Kolkata, that Kashipur garden house, though it burnt down, it was rebuilt to exactly the specifications of the original. And so you can visit it. We did when we were there in 1999. And there are many, many festivities held there now. So subhead, the move to Kashipur. On 11 December 1885, Ramakrishna left for Kashipur by horse carriage with Holy Mother, Latu, Kali, and Senior Gopal. These were the Latu and Senior Gopal were the ones mentioned as Advaitananda and Adbhutananda. Kali later became Swami Abhedananda. His other attendants took another carriage with the household belongings and necessities. At the Kashipur garden house, Holy Mother could move about more freely. It's a spacious place, certainly by comparison with the Shampur place, which I have not visited. I think it's now in the possession of the order as well, but I'm not sure about that. Does anyone else know? Is that true? All right. It's probably true. If it still exists, it's almost certainly in the order's possession. For those of you who have the book, there is a picture of the Kashipur garden house taken at the time that he was there. It's where he lived. And it said the caption reads, Kashipur garden house where Ramakrishna lived from 11 December 1885 to 16 August 1886. The two-story house was in a quiet neighborhood, and its garden comprised about 5 acres of land. Now that's very spacious. That's really quite a large area. That is truly a garden house. So the two-story house was in a quiet neighborhood, and its garden comprised about 5 acres of land with trees, flowering plants, and 2 ponds. Ramakrishna occupied a large room on the upper floor, and Holy Mother stayed in a small room on the ground floor near the staircase. Narendra and some young disciples took up residence in the 2 large rooms on the south side of the ground floor so they could attend to the master around the clock. And they truly did. This is so inspiring. If you can read about it in the Master's Divine Play. It's really, these young people really did prove their love and loyalty. Swami Chetanananda wrote, as before, Holy Mother was in charge of preparing the master's diet. If the doctor prescribed a special diet for the master, in addition to regular food, Brother Gopal or another devotee would learn how to prepare it, then teach Holy Mother how to do so. Holy Mother could converse freely only with Brother Gopal and 1 or 2 others. In addition to preparing the master's meals, Holy Mother would carry the food tray to him a little before noon and shortly after sunset, and wait until he had finished eating. Now, as you can imagine, with throat cancer, eating was difficult. And so this was not a pleasant thing that was going on. The master's niece Lakshmi was brought to Kashipur to help Holy Mother cook. Lakshmi came to help Holy Mother cook and perform other household duties, as well as to keep her company. In addition, some of the women devotees who had regularly visited the master in Dakshineshwar began to come to Kashipur and stay with the Holy Mother for a few hours, or sometimes for 1 or 2 days. This was a very sweet interlude with some of these women. And the master said that the mothers, first of all, he said that she was Radha, had been Radha, and that these women who were close to her were her gopi companions from the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna's life. So there was, they formed a very close bond, some of these women. So after a week after moving in, the whole arrangement worked smoothly. The master had a very restricted diet. Dr. Sarkar prescribed soft foods such as farina pudding, rice gruel, milk, barley vermicelli, palo, is that right? Palo, a custard made from the ZEDA zeodary root. I'm just going to pronounce that however I can. A custard made from the zeodary root, and also a meat and clam stew, so the master could gain some weight and strength. When asked to prepare clam stew, Holy Mother objected, remarking that clams were living creatures. How could she kill them? Thereupon the master said, "How is that? I must eat the stew, and you can't prepare it?" Holy Mother made up her mind to carry out his wish. While performing her duty, she had a revelation in which she saw that God alone is both the killer and the killed. Now, of course, this is exactly what Krishna tells us in chapter 2 of the Gita. It's not news, but when Mother had that revelation, it was to reassure her that she was not doing anything amiss. While performing this duty, she had a revelation in which she saw that God alone is both the killer and the killed. However, that clam stew stopped oozing of saliva from the master's mouth. Another day, the master said to her, "Look, I wish to eat potfuls of khichdi." Look, I wish to eat potfuls of khichdi. Of course, that wasn't on the prescribed diet from Dr. Sarkar. Householder devotees paid the expenses for the master and the household, and the master's young disciples took responsibility for nursing, shopping, and other errands. It was really quite a busy place during that because many visitors came. They were fed, they were taken care of. Dr. Sarkar came often, as we read in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So householder devotees paid the expenses for the master and the household, and the master's young disciples took responsibility for nursing, shopping, and other errands. Holy Mother had to do a great deal of cooking over a wood-burning stove. She also carried the master's noon and evening meals to him. Later, she related an accident that happened one day. Now, this is a quote from her. "While living in the Kashipur garden, I was once climbing the steps carrying a big bowl of milk. I felt dizzy and fell down, and the entire milk spilt on the ground. One of my ankles was badly sprained. Naren and Baburam later became Swami Premananda. Of course, Naren became Swami Vivekananda. Naren and Baburam ran there and took care of me. There was a great inflammation of the foot. The master heard of the accident and said to Baburam, "Well, Baburam, it is a nice mess I am in now. Who will cook my food? Who will feed me now?" He was then ill with cancer of the throat and lived mainly on rice gruel and farina pudding. This is mother still talking. "Well, Baburam, it is a nice mess I'm in now. Who will cook my food? Who will feed me now?" He was then ill with cancer of the throat and lived mainly on rice gruel and farina pudding. I used to make them and feed him in his room in the upper story of the house. I had then a ring in my nose. The master touched his nose and made a sign of the ring by making a circle with his finger in order to indicate me. He then said, "Baburam, can you put her," making the sign, "in a basket and carry her on your shoulder to this room?" Naren and Baburam were convulsed with side-splitting laughter. I don't think the master was making a joke, but nevertheless. She says, thus he used to cut jokes with them. After 3 days, the swelling subsided. Then they helped me to go upstairs with his meals. I don't know anyone who has read in any of the other reminiscences or stories about the mother, why she became dizzy. I can imagine how little sleep she was getting and how hard she worked. She must have been pretty overstressed, but I've never heard why she became dizzy. It's possible she became dehydrated. The young disciples renounced their homes and surrendered themselves to Ramakrishna. Holy Mother was the only witness to the following incident, which reveals how the master protected his disciples. This one really deserves our attention. The young disciples renounced their homes and surrendered themselves to Ramakrishna. Holy Mother was the only witness to the following incident, which reveals how the master protected his disciples. One evening, Niranjan and a few other disciples decided to get juice from a date palm near the southern boundary of the garden. The master was told nothing about this. When it was dark, Niranjan and others walked toward the tree. A short time later, Holy Mother saw the master running down the steps. Now, this is a time that he could not get out of bed by himself. Holy Mother saw the master running down the steps and through the door. She wondered, how is this possible? How can one who needs help even to change his position in bed run like an arrow? She could not believe her eyes, so she went to the master's room to see if he was there. He was not. In great consternation, she looked all around but could not find him. With much apprehension, Holy Mother returned to her room. After a while, Holy Mother saw the master running swiftly back to his room. She then went to him and asked about what she had seen. He replied, "Oh, you noticed that. You see, the boys who have come here are all young. They were proceeding merrily to drink the juice of a date palm in the garden. I saw a black cobra there." Now, mind you, this was him seeing all this at a distance, seeing that he couldn't have seen it from the window. He simply saw what was going on with them. So much did he care of them. They were proceeding merrily to drink the juice of a date palm in the garden. I saw a black cobra there. It is ferocious and might have bitten them all. The boys did not know this, so I went there by a different route to drive it away. I told the snake, don't come here again. The master asked her not to tell the others about this. So, we don't talk much about the master's miracles. He didn't want it mentioned clearly at the time, and it's found its way into our stories of him. But this is when Krishna says in the Gita, this is all a play that you see going on here, my appearance here among you. I am the master of the gunas. I am the master of the gunas. And so this is proof. The master so cared about the boys that he saw what they were doing. Oh, whoever's got there, please mute that, whoever, because we're getting a repeat. And then, of course, this emaciated body, he was virtually skin and bones. I mean, really, if you see the picture of him that was taken after his Mahasamadhi, you can see he was just a skeleton with skin on. Of course, by this time, the cancer was metastasizing throughout the rest of his body. But in spite of that, he jumped up from his bed, ran down the stairs, actually physically ran down the stairs. Mother saw him. This was not his subtle body. He wasn't in the room. When Mother went to look, he wasn't in the room. She couldn't find him anywhere. So he was able to take his physical body and cause it to run down the stairs and go, as it says. So I went there to the date palm by a different route to drive it away. I told the snake, don't come here again. The master asked her not to tell the others about this. Holy Mother was frightened when she saw that people had begun worshiping the master as God. She remembered that he had told her that when people regarded him as God, he would soon leave his body. She recalled. This again is Mother speaking. The master was then lying ill in Kashipur. Some devotees brought some offerings for Mother Kali at Dakshineshwar, but instead of offering them to her, they offered them to the master's picture there, and then partook of the prasad. In hearing about this, the master said, just see, the devotees did the wrong thing. All these things were brought for the Divine Mother, but they offered everything here, meaning to himself. And the mother says, I was scared to death. I thought, he is suffering from this dangerous disease. Who knows what will happen? What a calamity. Why did they do such a thing? Late that night, the master told me, you will see later that people will worship my picture. You will see that people will worship my picture in their homes. This is surely going to happen. I mean it. I swear it. Don't be worried. So I'm reasonably certain that everyone listening in here has a picture of the master in their home. People will worship my picture in their homes. This is surely going to happen. I mean it. I swear it. Don't be worried. This was the only day I heard him using the first person pronoun with reference to himself. This was the only day I heard him using the first person pronoun with reference to himself. Usually he would speak of himself as, not as I or me, but would point to himself and say, this case, meaning this pillowcase, or this place. At Kashipur, the master distributed ochre cloths and rosaries to 12 disciples. At Kashipur, the master distributed ochre cloths and rosaries to 12 disciples, and thus laid the foundation for his monastic order. Another day, the master asked his disciples to go and beg for food. It is an ancient Indian custom for monks to live on alms. Begging helps eradicate the ego and teaches one to depend solely on God. Narendra, Niranjan, Kali, and Hutko Gopal first went to Holy Mother and asked for alms, chanting this hymn to the goddess Annapurna. O Parvati, goddess of food, whose store is overflowing, O beloved of Shankara, give me alms so that I may attain knowledge and wisdom. So these boys didn't want to venture out at that point. So they went to the mother and asked her for alms. The merciful Holy Mother, taken by surprise, gave them a handful of cooked rice. They then went from door to door, begging for food, empowered by the rice that she had given them. You can imagine that there was her prayerful wish for them in that rice. They then went from door to door begging for food. Some people gave them rice, some gave vegetables or fruit. Some scolded them, saying, "You young fellows, are you not ashamed of yourself you young fellows, are you not ashamed to dress yourself as beggars and beg for food? Go away and find a job." Some remarked, "These young men are robbers. They have come to get information so that they can return at night and rob us." The young disciples endured all kinds of verbal abuse. When at last they returned to the master with their alms, he was very pleased. Holy Mother cooked a portion of the food. After partaking of it, the master remarked, "Food obtained by begging is pure. It is not defiled by anyone's selfish desire. I am very pleased to eat it today." When we think of these actions of the master as always instructive to us, what does he say about the food? It is not defiled by anyone's selfish desire. So if we cook food for the master without any selfish desire, we don't have to beg it. But if we cooked food for the master, then he will be very pleased to eat it. And when we take that prasad, it will be pure indeed. Now we remember he moved there in the beginning, just at the end of 1885. 11 December, I think, if I remember the correct, December 11th. So we're about to hear about the fact that he was fading fast, but we'll also hear about the Kalpataru incident. Ramakrishna's physical condition deteriorated quickly. It soon became hard for him to swallow any food, and the medicine was ineffective. Holy Mother resolved to seek divine help. She left for the famous Tarakshwar Shiva temple. Did I pronounce that right? Tarakshwar, the famous Tarakshwar Shiva temple, to get a remedy for her husband's illness. Lakshmi and a maidservant with Lakshmi and a maidservant with her. She later said, I went to Tarakshwar and lay down before Lord Shiva without food or drink for 2 days. I prayed and kept vigil, but got no response from the Lord. On the second night, I was startled by a sound, a cracking sound, as if someone were striking a heap of baked earthen pots with a huge cudgel, with a heavy cudgel. I got up, and this thought came to my mind. Who is one's husband? Who are one's relatives? For whose sake am I about to commit suicide here? All my attachments were completely cut asunder, and my mind was filled with renunciation. I groped my way through the darkness to the back of the temple, where the holy water offered to Shiva was accumulated in a basin. I splashed that water on my eyes and face and drank it. My throat was dry because I had been fasting. I felt a little refreshed. The next day I returned to Kashipur. The moment the master saw me, he asked, well, did you get anything? Then flexing his right thumb, he said, nothing is real. Isn't that so? Does anyone have any sense at all about the significance of his flexing his right thumb? Is there anything in your knowledge that lets us know what that might signify in relation to his words? Okay.
That shows, that means, it's like teasing, some kind of teasing that you didn't get anything.
I see.
Yeah, it's like that, Typically they do that,
Flexing it's the right thumb. It's a kind of indication I'm teasing you.
Yeah, it's a kind of teasing that, you didn't get anything. So something like that.
I see. Thank you, Sham. I'm glad you chimed in with that. So then the moment the master saw me, he asked, well, did you get anything? He knew perfectly well, of course, she hadn't. Then flexing his right thumb, he said, nothing is real, isn't that so? Which is more than teasing, but I'm sure between them, this was a relationship that is beyond our understanding. This is the mother continuing to speak. One day the master told me that he had had a dream. An elephant was trying to get medicine for him. It was digging in the earth for his medicine when Gopal woke him up. Then he asked me whether I had any dream. Once I saw Mother Kali with her neck tilted to one side. I asked her why she stood that way. She replied, because of his having that trouble, pointing to the master's wound. I too am ill. So this was the mother's dream or vision. Once I saw Mother Kali with her neck tilted to one side. I asked her why she stood that way. She replied, because of his having that trouble, pointing to the master's wound. I too am ill. Now there's a footnote there. I'd like to have someone who has the book read the footnote if they would. Anyone have the book and can read the footnote? It's footnote number 10. No? Okay.
I have the book Shankaraji, but there is no footnote here.
I see. All right. Well, I hesitate to click on it to read it here because I'm not sure I'll be able to get back to where we are. So we'll just
Brother
have.
Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I can tap on it and it just says MK, comma 216 to 17. It must be quoting a source.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay. So Kali, of course, in other contexts, the master said he was Kali, that he was both the mother, Kali, and her worshiper, Vishnu. So I'm not surprised that mother had this vision of Kali with something wrong with her throat as well. Holy Mother described this vision in detail to Yoganma, who later related this story. So this is now Yoganma speaking. When Sri Ramakrishna was gravely ill at the Kashipur garden house, Holy Mother was stricken with grief. One day she had a visitor, a black girl with long hair, appeared and sat near her. Realizing it was Mother Kali, Holy Mother exclaimed, "Oh, you have come." "Yes, I have come from Dakshineshwar." After further conversation, Holy Mother observed that the girl's neck was bent to one side. She asked, "What has happened to your neck?" Mother Kali, "Well, I have a sore throat." Holy Mother, "My goodness, the master has a sore throat and you also have it?" Mother Kali, "That is true." Thus, Holy Mother was made to understand that the Divine Mother and Sri Ramakrishna were one and the same. And of course, when the master left the body, we're told that that's the first thing that Holy Mother said, "Oh my Kali, where have you gone?" Yoganma recalled another incident that took place in Kashipur. Again, now this is Yoganma speaking. On another day in Kashipur, Holy Mother carried the master's food to his room, which was on the carried his food to his room, which was on the upper floor. The master asked her, "Do you know how to play Astakaste? This is a game similar to English Parcheesi or American Parcheesi. It's a Parcheesi with the marbles and so on. Holy Mother, "No, Master. If one can pair two checkers, the opponent cannot take them. Likewise, one should unite oneself with the chosen deity and thus be rid of fear." So this is the master describing the game. "Master, if one can pair two checkers, the opponent cannot take them. Likewise, one should unite oneself with the chosen deity and thus be rid of fear. Otherwise, a ripe checker, one that is near the goal, if it is still single, can be turned back. If a person can move in this world with his chosen deity like a pair of checkers, he will be saved." Now, a lot of you have heard me talking recently about a book called Love Poems from God. If you want to understand what the Master has just said, you can read these great saints from the world's traditions and see what this means, to be paired with the divine being, the chosen ideal, the chosen deity. They simply, as Saint Teresa of Avila said, yours and the Lord's arms become intertwined. So this is a very powerful teaching. So I'm going to read it again. The master asked her if she knew how to play this game. Holy Mother says, no. Master, if one can pair two checkers, the opponent cannot take them. Likewise, one should unite oneself with the chosen deity and thus be rid of fear. Otherwise, a ripe checker, one that is near the goal, if it is still single, can be turned back. If a person can move in this world with his chosen deity like a pair of checkers, he will be saved. As Holy Mother listened, she continued with her small household task. As Holy Mother listened, she continued with this small household task in which she had been engaged. Suddenly the master said jokingly, "Are you listening to me or not?" Holy Mother was embarrassed. In the Gospel of Ramakrishna, M records this for 24 April 1886. M came to the garden house. Oh, wait a minute. That's it. So 24 April 1886. M came to the garden house accompanied by his wife and a son. The boy was 7 years old. It was at the master's request that he brought his wife, who was almost mad with grief owing to the death of one of her sons. That day, the master several times allowed M's wife the privilege of waiting on him. Her welfare seemed to occupy his attention a great deal. In the evening, the Holy Mother came to the master's room to feed him. M's wife accompanied her with a lamp. The master tenderly asked her many questions about her household. He requested her to come again to the garden house and spend a few days with the Holy Mother, not forgetting to ask her to bring her baby daughter. When the master had finished his meal, M's wife removed the plates. He chatted with her a few minutes. About 9 o'clock in the evening, Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room with the devotees. He had a garland of flowers around his neck. He told M that he had requested his wife to spend a few days at the garden house with Holy Mother. His kindness touched M's heart. So this was just a few months before the master's departure. And his concern was ever about others. Ever about others. Yes, he would have these episodes where he would cry like a child. Oh, can this ever be cured? Am I going to be well? He would sometimes say this to Dr. Sarkar and so on. But by and large, I'm going to check the time here. Can somebody say what time it is?
8:54.
Thank you, Balakrishna. I've got the type up large here on the screen so I can read it, but I can't read the little clock that easily. So now we're moving away from M and M's wife in that incident. By the way, the wife did later bring her daughter to Sri Ramakrishna there at Kashipur. And that was a very sweet interlude also. Yogin Ma was a woman of strong determination. Whatever she undertook, she carried through to perfection. After practicing spiritual disciplines for some time, according to the master's instructions, she decided that Calcutta was not suitable for such practices. The sacred atmosphere of Vrindavan, she thought, would be better. Ramakrishna was then staying at the Kashipur garden house for his cancer treatment. When Yogin Ma asked his permission to go to Vrindavan, he readily agreed, but he asked her if she had talked to Holy Mother about it. Holy Mother was present and said, "You have said whatever there is to be said. What is there to add?" Nevertheless, the master told Yogin Ma, "My dear child, go after obtaining her consent. You will get everything." Now, Yogin Ma did go to Vrindavan, but she came back later. And she also started an order of nuns after the mother's passing away. Just a few days before the master passed away, Durgacharan Nag went to see him. Just a few days before the master passed away. So we're jumping ahead to August now. Just a few days before the master passed away, Durgacharan Nag went to see him. As he entered the room, he heard the master ask for an amalaki fruit, which is soothing for the throat. A devotee replied that none were available because they were out of season. But Durgacharan thought that if the word amalaki came from the master's lips, then the fruit must be available somewhere. Without saying anything, he left in search of it. For 2 days, he checked different gardens in the suburbs of Calcutta. On the third day, he appeared before the master with a few amalaki fruits. The master was very pleased and said to Holy Mother, "Please prepare a mixed vegetable curry with hot chilies for him. He is from East Bengal, so he loves hot dishes." When the food was served, however, Durgacharan could not touch it. When the food was served, however, Durgacharan would not touch it. It was his fasting day, Ekadashi, the 11th day of the moon. So the master himself touched the food and sanctified it, and Durgacharan took it as prasad. In his exuberant devotion, Durgacharan ate not only the food, but the leaf plate as well. Nagmashai was just, Mother said she'd never seen such devotion in all the three worlds about Nagmashai. In his exuberant devotion, Durgacharan ate not only the food, but the leaf plate as well. From that time on, the devotees were very careful when serving Durgacharan prasad on a leaf plate. As soon as he finished his meal, they would snatch away the leaf plate. They even removed seeds and pits from fruits before offering them to him, lest he swallow them. Okay, we're about to go on to another episode here, and it's almost 9 o'clock. So we'll leave it there. Are there any questions or comments or anything that you would like to offer? Please do, if there's something. Anything? Questions, comments?
I have one question, Brother Shankar.
Yes. Yes,
it's when he went to send the snake away, was he in super consciousness state? or was he always super consciousness state?
Well, I think that's what we would have to say, that Sri Ramakrishna occupied a special place in terms of what we would think of as consciousness. It's not something that any of us would understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Sarkar kept trying to discourage him from going into samadhi.
Mm.
And the master just ignored him. He tried, he would make an effort, but of course
Mhm.
so the state that he was in is beyond our comprehension. I mean, if you see the picture of him that was taken,
Mhm.
he was just skin and bones.
Mm.
So there was hardly any way that he could. There's no physical way.
Yeah.
So it's a divine power. Yes,
Okay.
he was able to move that body,
Mhm.
and not only move it but run. And Mother saw him running down the stairs and then running back up the stairs. So it's not something that we would be able to understand.
Mhm.
If we were paired with him, checker to checker, then he might share with us how that happened. As I
Thank
said, if you read the testimony of these saints that is in that book, Love Poems from God, many things are revealed to them. And so what the encouragement is from that book is to make the effort to achieve that state where we have this, which Sri Ramakrishna, of course, can constantly become someone who speaks to God,
Mhm.
know God that well. Thank you, Harma. That was a good question.
Thank you. Because Raja Yoga tells us anybody can achieve superconscious state.
Yes.
Through meditation, longer meditation.
Yes.
Okay.
Through the practice of samyama,
Uh-huh.
we can achieve that superconscious state and omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence, which is the final barrier.
Right. Thank you.
That's what we're told.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Shailesh, right.
The point you made about thinking that we are offering the food to Sri Ramakrishna before we cook, rather than I'm making the food for myself or family. That's a very good point. Something good to know and learn.
Yes. It's the way the cooking is done in all the monasteries. And they're so careful about it, so careful. No one tastes the food, no one smells the food, none except by accident. Of course, you can't help it, but certainly no intentional, no partaking of that food in any way before it is offered to the master. If you could see, and you can see if you go, see how this is done in Hollywood. It's just beautiful to watch that these people are so careful and so thought. And this was right from Swami Prabhupada, and of course Swami Swahananda endorsed it, and Swami Sarvadevananda. That's it. Thanks for remarking on that, Shailesh. Yes, I'm not.
Thank you.
I'll take it. And of course, it's what Krishna tells us to do in chapter 3 of the Gita. Do it for me, and then take it as my gift after it's been offered to me.
Thank you.
Thanks. No, thank you. Thanks for remarking on that. Yes.
Brother Shankara, this is Swayam.
Yes, I see you clearly.
I either heard or read somewhere, it may have been Swami Sarvadevananda, I'm not sure, that if you don't have the time to actually cook, you can make mental offerings.
Of course. Yes, as a matter of fact, it's best if we just make mental offerings of everything we do during the day. From the time we wake up in the morning and we have a cup of tea or coffee, offer that to the master, and then offer the day itself and all of our thoughts and feelings and perceptions and projections and memories, and just offer it all off, constantly offer. And it's this way that you develop this sense of the living presence that Swami Prabhupada was so emphasized. Feel the living presence. And when you do that, day in and day out, day in and day out, you begin to get a response. You begin to get a correspondence. So thanks for bringing that up. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
If we have time to cook, let us cook for the Master. If we don't, whatever we do, whether we take a cookie out of a package, whether we pour some hot water over a tea bag, let it be for the Master before we take it for ourselves. Anyone else? This is wonderful. Let's just keep these thoughts going. Okay. Well, we'll pick it up there with the sentence, "One day while Holy Mother," and that's where we'll start next week. Thank you all for coming this evening. This was lovely. So we'll close with this. Satoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Abir Moiti. O beloved Lord, lead us from thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. Just a word about this shelter in place, this physical isolation. Clearly we don't have social isolation. Here we are with one another. But this physical isolation, it's working. It's working. This is what of course, this is being looked at very, very carefully by people who study these things. And the physical isolation, the sheltering in place, going out only when we need to for groceries or for medicines or whatever it is that we must go out for. It works. It's working. And so it will, as they say, flatten the curve and really lessen the load on the hospitals and on those wonderful, wonderful people who are continuing to serve day in and day out, sleeping there. They hardly go home. Yes, they hardly go home. And of course, some of them are getting sick themselves. It's inevitable. So let's remain resolute and remain thoughtful and grateful that we have the ability to do this physical isolation and still be with one another in this way. So good night to you all.
Thank you,
Good
Brother
night.
Shankar.
See you tomorrow night or Sunday or Saturday or whenever you choose to join us for the next class. The next class, of course, will be tomorrow night on the Gita. And then on Saturday at 11 a.m., there is a class on Swami Prabhavananda's Realizing God. And then on Sunday, the last of the 5 talks on Don Juan Matus and his training of Carlos Castaneda. And that one will have some both very touching and entertaining moments, that talk, because it will involve this real character who was a friend of Don Juan's, another master brujo named Don Gennaro. And Don Gennaro tells the story of his enlightenment experience, which we'll hear part of on Sunday. It's quite remarkable. He's quite a remarkable person. So good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night.
night, Shankar. Thank you.
Namaste.
Jai Shri Ramakrishna. Namaste. Hello there, Chinmoy.
Hey. Namaste. Good night.
Good night, all. I'm going to click the end meeting button now. See you again soon.
See you.